Okay, with this year nearly now coming to an end, it has been a mad, mad year, I think, in the world of mixed martial arts. So, what I'm going to do is my top 5 MMA moments of the year. I'm going to do one as well on boxing, but I feel like this year for MMA has been a bit more dramatic. We've had so many crazy things happen, so many crazy KOs, finishes, titles changing hands, headshot bang. We've had certain people getting front kicked in the face. We've been long reigning champions getting put to sleep. We've had back and forth. It's been a crazy, crazy year. I can't really go for everything, but there are going to be a lot of, I will say, moments that probably could have been on here, but they'll get honorable mentions, is what I will say on this, because, like I said, it has been a very crazy year for the world of mixed martial arts. And what I would say is, like I said, I think in boxing there's been some crazy ones as well, but there's been a few other ones. So, like, you've had the Molly McCann spinning back fist KO. You've had all the crazy sort of Paddy the Baddy fights. You know, you've had the likes of a Luke Rockhold and Paulo Costa fight, which was just crazy. Likewise with the Dustin Poirier and Michael Chandler fight. You know, you've had the crazy sort of title fights that Charles Oliveira's had with Justin Gaethje. You know, you had the mad moment that Francis Ngannou turned into an African Khabib and decided to grapple with Cyril Gane. You had the Cyril Gane and Tai Tuivasa fight. There've been so many crazy ones, and like I said, if I could make a list of all, MMA is the one sport where it was hard to make a list, not because there was no moments, but because there was too many, and it's hard to compact into a top 5. But nonetheless, we're here, and I'm going to go through the top 5 now. So, starting at number 5, I'm going to go with the crazy war that was Khamzat Chimaev and Gilbert Burns. A war that ended in Chimaev getting the victory, obviously. Another moment that I was going to consider putting in was that whole chaos of the obviously the Chimaev Nate Diaz fight, which then ended up turning into the Nate Diaz and Tony Ferguson fight, with Khamzat fighting Kevin Holland. So I think it's been a crazy one. What UFC was that? The Khamzat Kevin Holland one. I feel like it was UFC 279. I think it was. But yeah, that was a crazy one. But the Chimaev Burns, I'm going to say number 5. Reason being, this fight was seen as the big one for Chimaev. It was his number 1 test. The Gilbert Burns, a guy who gave Kamaru Usman a very, very tough fight. One of the best welterweights in the world. If you take out maybe the likes of the top 3, Usman, Covington, Leon. I should put it around. Leon, Usman, and Covington. He's probably the next one after that. I mean, at the time, Leon wasn't really getting the respect like that, so a lot of people viewed him as number 3, Burns. And yeah, I think Burns would give the likes of Covington a real, real tough fight. I think if you fought Usman again, it would be a tough fight. He's one of the most underrated guys, I think, in the whole of the welterweight division. So, me personally, I don't really, I don't know why people don't speak about it more. But against Chimaev, it was seen as like I said, the big test for Chimaev. A lot of people were kind of dismissing Burns. I don't know why. Very, very foolishly, in my opinion. A lot of people saying, "Oh, Chimaev would just walk through Burns. It will be an easy fight." First round KO I was seeing in submission, which I thought was crazy, and it turned out to be an absolute war. First round quite close, some grappling exchanges, but nothing real big for either guy as it happened. And then towards the end of the round, Chimaev dropped Burns with the jab. I think Burns is sort of lean over stance, is very susceptible to the jab. Remember, Usman obviously didn't flat KO him with a jab and knocked him down twice with a jab, so he's obviously susceptible to that, Burns. And we saw Chimaev did good, but then in the second round, that is when all hell broke loose. Burns was constantly landing that right hand down the middle. Chimaev decided to almost abandon the grappling and turn it into a straight brawl. And I'm grateful for it because it turned out to be a great fight. And as it happened, obviously we saw towards the end of the round, Chimaev did have Burns on the ground, but then Burns kicked him off in a very, very brutal fashion. And then Burns landed the right hand, wobbled Chimaev, somewhat knocked him down, but didn't really knock him down flush. His legs kind of went out. Burns almost then kicked him in the head after, which Chimaev almost tried to fight him. The moment after that, it was a crazy fight. And then the third one was a war, and Chimaev just did enough to get it done. I don't disagree with the decision. I think it was a very close fight, to be honest. But yeah, that was certainly, I think, a moment for Chimaev where he had to reflect, because he never got hit. I think he got hit once at that point. He's still fair doing that as well. But up until that fight, he was almost untouchable. And then he got dragged into the deep end, and people kind of saw, even though he's a tough guy, but he has the heart in him as well. He can still fight on, and it was an incredible fight. There were two incredible fighters, so I had an amazing fight. So yeah, I'd say that's my number 5. And then number 4 on the list. Now, some people may have this higher. Some people may actually, because of weird biases, may not have it in at all. And that is Islam Makhachev winning the belt off of Charles Oliveira at UFC 280 in Abu Dhabi. We all remember I did a preview for it. I think it was actually my longest ever preview. Not just the fight, obviously, the other fights on the card. But that fight was the ice on the cake. It was the two best lightweights in the world, bar none. Charles Oliveira beat Chandler to get the belt, beat Dustin Poirier, rear naked choke, beat Justin Gaethje. Charles Oliveira was looking very good, and a lot of people were saying if he wins that fight, he could overtake Khabib as the lightweight GOAT. Idiots. And there, a lot of people were also saying that, Makhachev hadn't fought anybody, Oliveira was going to go and knock him out. Some people felt like Makhachev was going to be dominant over him, and that's why he was almost the favourite in the fight. It really was one of the most anticipated fights I had in my radar for a long time. I loved the fight beforehand. I loved the preview. I loved the back and forth between the two of them. I love the fact that Abu Dhabi, I think, is a good place for it, because unfortunately in America sometimes with grappling they don't really give guys the respect. But with Abu Dhabi, they all love Khabib. They love the Dagestanis. I think Chimaev would put his love there as well if he ever fights there. So I think he did actually when he fought Li Jingliang. I feel like that was over there, but I'm not sure. But yeah, it's one of those where, yeah, an incredible build up to the fight. It really had that big fight feel to it, and the fact that it wasn't also in 3 a.m. for the people in Europe and the UK helped. And yeah, going into the fight, there was so much pressure on both of these. More on Makhachev. I felt Makhachev had all the expectation. It's Khabib's boy. Khabib was hyping him up. So were everybody in AK. So was Javier Mendez. Khabib's father, Abdulmanap, God rest his soul, said that this guy is going to be the next one when Khabib retires to take the belt. He's so sure of it. And what we saw in the fight, obviously, first round got underway. Khabib looked quite nervous, I would say, beforehand, which just told you, like, it really just had that feel that I felt nerves going into the fight. And I like both guys, but again, certain fights just have that effect where you just almost get the butterflies beforehand because it has such a big fight feel to it. In boxing, I think the last fight that really had that for me was maybe the Wilder Fury fights. But other than that, there weren't really many fights that did it. And yeah, I felt that this fight though, Oliver and Makhachev really had that, and it was so highly anticipated. And even if you look at the preview, it really was sold as a real mega fight, and as it should have been. And then going to the fight, first round. So if we go back, my prediction, I think, for the fight was I felt Makhachev would submit me around in 3 rounds. A lot of people thought Oliveira submission would be a problem for him. They said that they feel like because Makhachev got knocked out all that time ago that he may still be susceptible to it, and Oliveira obviously had the better stand up. First round, Oliveira comes flying, switch kick to Makhachev. Makhachev gets out of the way, lands the left hand, and they get into a little exchange on the floor. Makhachev then kind of gets up. Oliveira gets up, but Makhachev's kind of against the fence. Then Makhachev's able to sort of switch it and then land a beautiful whizzer kick on Oliveira and got him down. 1 point Oliveira and an up kick, but it was pretty dominant first from Makhachev, as you kind of expected. In the second round, they have some exchanges on the feet, on the ground. Makhachev was trying to get Oliveira down, wasn't able to, and then Oliveira goes for the kick, doesn't land in range, and Makhachev lands a beautiful right hand, drops Oliveira, goes into his guard, gets in, locks up the arm triangle, and made it easy. And that is what I think, why I say this is on this list. It could be higher, I'll be honest, but to me, the reason this is on this list is because of how easy Islam Makhachev made it look. Oliveira was dominant, beating guys, knocking them out, submitting them, showing his dominance. Everybody recognised him, even though it was a vacant belt. Everybody recognised him as the champion, and still Makhachev went in there and just, as good as Oliveira is, he made it look like he didn't belong. He did exactly what Khabib did to all of these guys, and he showed that Khabib, Javier Mendez, aka Abdulmanap, they knew what they were talking about with Islam Makhachev. They always knew. Makhachev always felt like he was the going to be the champion. He wanted to fight for a long time. Nobody really wanted to fight him, and now he's the champion. Volkanovski's next, it looks like, and yeah, but a brilliant win from Makhachev. Oliveira showed a lot of heart in the fight. He's a great fighter. Everybody loves Oliveira. Who doesn't? But to me, it was crazy. You know, it felt like a destiny time moment. It felt like a movie where you almost felt like it was the protege coming in and finally filling the shoes of his master. And it was an excellent moment for Makhachev. Brilliant in general for that region of Dagestan, showing their dominance, and once again showing that at the moment this is Dagestan's time. One day somebody will figure out how to beat these guys, I'm sure, but at the moment they are ruling the whole of MMA. And yeah, crazy moment, especially with the build up and how easy Makhachev may looked. It was a fantastic win and a brilliant moment I thought in Abu Dhabi. And then we go on to number 3. Now, again, some people may contest that this is over a title win, but I'm going to go with Michael Chandler's front kick KO of Tony Ferguson at UFC 274. This, one of the scariest, craziest KOs ever. The crowd afterwards, Chandler doing like 100 backflips. Tony Ferguson's face, when you like slow mo, it looks like he's all like an old man almost getting kicked. It's crazy KO. Coming into the fight, I think Chandler had come off the Justin Gaethje loss, and people were kind of thinking, is this guy just a bit too crazy? For Tony Ferguson, I want to say it was the Benny Dariush fight that I think it was his last one before that. Let me just check, because both these guys, they were coming off losses, and that was the one thing that I think got a lot of people thinking, is this going to be one of those ones where whoever loses retires or whatever. Yeah, it was a Dariush fight before Ferguson, so it was a very close fight coming into it. And Ferguson, you know, it was a real classic lightweight battle. It was UFC 2, what did I say it was? I feel like I said UFC 279, but I feel like I'm wrong. 274 is what it was. So UFC 274, if I cast my mind back, if I look, it was the Oliveira and Justin Gaethje main event, and then we had the absolute barn burner that was the Rose Namajunas and Carlo Esparza fight as the co-main event. But a decent card, and for a knockout like that, when you go into 2 title fights, it gives a real good feeling too. I know the co-main was horrendous, but I mean the point is, it really gives that sense of, I don't know, it's almost like when it's like big KO followed by like a crazy fight after it. That's a title fight especially. It really gives that sense of expectation. Like almost, they often say like, imagine having this fight as a warm up for the next fight. So with Conor and Khabib, I remember it was Pettis and Ferguson, and they put an amazing fight of war, and then that was the fight after it, and it really gives you that sense. It's the one thing that makes UFC great, and MMA great in general. The cards are always so stacked, and it was an incredible fight, and incredible finish from Chandler, because obviously in the first round Tony Ferguson was lighting him up, knocked him down at one point, but then Chandler was able to take him down. It was a very, very close round actually, looking back at it. I thought it was a lot more one-sided than initially, but then when I look back at it, it was a very close round, to be honest, and Chandler did have a lot of good moments. But then second round, they're both on the feet, sort of feeling each other out, and then I don't know, out of nowhere Chandler lands a front kick KO. I actually initially, when I watched it live, I think I looked away for a second, and then I just saw Ferguson flat KO'd, and it was one of those where he was out cold. It was like the Manny Pacquiao KO when he fought Marquez. It was a very, very, very brutal KO, and Tony Ferguson he looked, you know, in some fights they just look like they've almost not died, but like they just look like he was just frozen in there. It was one of those KOs that it'll be remembered for a long time. Same as the Masvidal Ben Askren KO. The Bisping Henderson fight is another one. there are so many crazy KOs in MMA, and this is up there. It was brutal, and it's one of those. It was a front kick KO, and the front kick, people use it in different ways, really. And some guys, they kind of use the front kick. Anderson Silva was somebody who was a master of using that front kick, especially. We remember the front kick that he landed on Forrest Griffin. It's one of those where if you use it right, it can. It's just I don't know. It's not really used as much, I feel like, in MMA, but it definitely is a technique that's used almost to. Did I say Forrest Griffin? I meant Vitor Belfort, not Forrest Griffin. I just realised in my head then. No, my bad. The Vitor Belfort one. Where Anderson Silva used that was with precision. Belfort almost went into it in a way, whereas with Chandler, he threw it in a way, which is quite unique because he almost powered through on it, almost a little bit like how you do a push kick to the body, but he went up with it, and the force he generated on that was absolutely crazy. And I'll be honest, I do sometimes question Michael Chandler's fight IQ. He doesn't do really what I mean, he's a great fighter, but he isn't a he's a fight away champion. Let's just say that he fights like an absolute lunatic. And yeah, it was an absolutely crazy kick. I think it was quite early in the round, if I remember correctly, as well, when the that front kick happened. And Chandler, he's almost like he's built like a damn gorilla almost, how big and strong he is. And I feel like a lot of the shots he lands, whether it's his kicks, his punches, they all seem to have an effect. So yeah, it was a crazy KO. I can't say high enough. I think there's another one on this list which I would say is KO of the year, but this certainly is close for KO of the year. It was an incredible finish. So yeah, God bless Michael Chandler. And Tony Ferguson still fought on after it, and he needs to retire now, Ferguson, I think. But regardless, great career for Ferguson, but it's a shame it had to happen to him. A lot of people were upset about that. We all love Tony Ferguson, but when it's your time. And I think that KO was the moment, because Tony Ferguson was known for having a good chin. So when you get put out cold, that's when you know it's time to call it a day. But yeah, incredible finish. So Michael Chandler, KO Ferguson, number 3. And then number 2, we have one that relatively recent, and that was Alex Pereira's finish of Israel Adesanya to win the middleweight belt at UFC. I need to remember this UFC's bet. UFC 281. An incredible fight, first of all. Let me just put context to my mind of how I felt about this fight. Some people will exaggerate this. I've never been so going back and forth on a fight for a long time. This fight was so close to me. You're Adesanya, who had lost to Pereira twice, albeit he probably won the first one in kickboxing, but it is what it is. And then the second one, he got knocked out cold. Then you got Alex Pereira, hasn't really had the experience in MMA. Going against a champion, a long-reigning champion, Israel Adesanya, there's so much that's there. And then I look at Adesanya, he's relies on his range a lot. He fought a guy in Pereira who was basically the same sort of size as him, if not taller, actually. I think Adesanya, I think they were the same height, but I feel like Pereira actually might be taller when I look at it. Pereira's big, and he has the kickboxing pedigree along, as well as Adesanya, so he can more than keep up with him in the striking. And if you remember my preview, I did predict Pereira to win the fight in the first round. I thought he'd get it done. Took him another 4 rounds, but yeah, an incredible fight. And the fact that it was at MSG as well just gives you that big fight feel. The fact, I mean, look at the walkouts. Adesanya coming out to the, I think it was a Saw theme song. Pereira coming out, I think it was a tribal song that he came out to, Brazilian one. It felt like these two were just ready to go to war. They were both in the zone. They both knew each other. It was like two enemies from a former life coming back to fight each other. It was like, I'm gonna go Star Wars. It's like when you saw Darth Vader and Obi-Wan. It's like that. Like they knew each other. It felt like a movie, that fight. It really did. And I loved the fight. Beforehand, I thought it was an excellent thing from the UFC to make that fight when it did. They didn't wait for Pereira to fight another guy and lose. They put it straight away because they knew if you just give enough momentum behind a guy, and this middleweight division is devoid of contenders as it is because Adesanya's beating them all. So I think it was the right fight to make. And Yeah, first round, close on the feet up until the end. Adesanya did stun him and probably may have stopped him if it was a bit longer, that fight. Second round, close round, but Pereira, I think, won it, got the wrestling. And then third round, got a takedown at the end of the round, which, as we all kind of expected. And then Adesanya to go turns to the wrestling in the third round, takes down Pereira, almost tires him out. And then in the fourth round, you could see it was really wearing on Pereira. He looked so tired in there, groggy, couldn't really keep up the same. It looked like, was he tired? 5 rounds, is that affecting him? We don't know. And then we get into the fifth round, and his corner give him this and they almost give him the talk that I feel like a lot of trainers kind of are afraid to give their fighters because they want to get fired. They didn't care. They said to him, "You got 5 minutes to be a champion." Pereira, you could see in that fifth round, he was marching forward, really trying to land the shots at Adesanya. The whole fight, Adesanya was backing up against the cage, and I said in my preview, the only thing about Adesanya, in his kickboxing match, he leaned back against the ropes a lot. You can't do that in the octagon, but he was constantly doing it. And eventually, what happened? Pereira caught him. He caught him actually with a few shots, but he caught him with a little short left hook. That was the one that really rocked, and you could see Adesanya was all over the place. Adesanya's talking about the perennial nerve being damaged in his leg. Wouldn't surprise me because Pereira did check a kick and Adesanya did roll back on it, but really, that wasn't the reason why he got finished. He got finished because Pereira hit him and Adesanya just could not recover. Hits him again. He was wailing on Adesanya. Adesanya was stumbling to the ground. He's showing afterwards, was like his nose was bleeding. Pereira was just landing shots, and some people say it was stopped prematurely. I agree, but not in a. It was a premature stoppage in the sense that there's 2 types of early stoppages. There's this type of early stoppages that are fight referees getting too over keen and just stopping it when it shouldn't have been stopped. And then there are stoppages that are there to save the fighters. That was a stoppage that I think saved Adesanya from getting KO cold, because one, it's hard to sell a rematch or a rematch if that happens, and also, you don't want to get put out cold. We don't want to see Adesanya get put. We don't want to see any fighter realistically put out cold. We want to see great fights, and it's a dangerous game naturally. Anyway, the sport that is MMA, people get hurt, but you don't really want to see fighters going for extra shots when a guy's already knocked out. You don't want to see them really putting the fire out, damaging them even further. Me personally, I don't really care for it, because ultimately it's the onus is on the fighter to finish the fight and the referee to stop him and to jump in and stop it. So to me, I have no preference. But going off track here, my point is, incredible finish. Pereira knocks out or TKOs Adesanya in the 5th round, wins the belt. An absolute crazy result. And for Adesanya, it was his 3rd loss to this guy. And now a rematch is on the horizon, but I'm so interested to see what happens in that one, because this isn't like certain rematches where a guy will land maybe 1 shot and the other guy can just do something maybe to counter it in the rematch. No. This is going to be a hard one for Adesanya, because one, Pereira does train with Glover Teixeira, who is a remarkable grappler. Adesanya really hasn't got those kind of guys in his camp. He's trained MMA longer, so it's why you give him the advantage in the grappling. But the more and more Alex Pereira trains grappling, it's going to be harder for Adesanya to win it. And yes, he rocked him in the 1st round, granted, but let's not get it twisted. Pereira still recovered. Pereira has an amazing ability to recover. Now, maybe it's a similar thing of what I said about Oliveira, that maybe one day somebody will make him pay for it, but Adesanya ultimately, he's got a killer instinct, Adesanya, but it isn't as he's not as, I don't know, comfortable with it, I think, as Pereira's. Adesanya can put you away, let's not get twisted. There's a real venom to him, but with Pereira, I think it's different. And yeah, got it done. It must kill Izzy that this guy now has 3 wins over him. He's essentially beat him twice in kickboxing. He then followed him almost to MMA just to beat him and take his belt, the place where I think Adesanya felt comfortable. Pereira taught that too. He's like the ultimate hater almost. But a crazy storyline, and I can't wait for that rematch. But yeah, number 2, that's what I say. Alex Pereira and beating Israel Adesanya, I'd say, is to me the 2nd craziest moment of the year. And number 1, if you haven't guessed it, there's only one moment. It is Headshot bang when Leon Edwards KO'd Kamaru Usman out cold with the head kick in the 5th round to win the welterweight belt. It was, I mean, the reason why that Pereira Adesanya fight was crazy because it essentially mimicked to an extent what happened in this fight. Context going into this fight. So, Kamaru Usman is seen as the pound for pound king of mixed martial arts, beating everybody. Beat Colby Covington twice, beat Masvidal twice, beat Gilbert Burns, was dominant in this division, had beaten basically everybody else before, had beaten Leon Edwards before. So it felt like almost a routine defense for Edwards. Some people say, oh, he didn't deserve the shot. He did. He's waited long enough. He'd done the work. He really should have got it. And if, like, we'll go to Leon Edwards as well, but that fight, it was a very close fight because Edwards was a very, very... People don't respect Edwards enough as a big name, but his skills can't be undermined. He's a very, very skillful fighter. He has so many tools. Good grappler, good striker, and submissions fairly decent. We saw in that fight, we saw almost the full extent of his skill to an extent. And yeah, it was an interesting fight nonetheless. It was a title defense for Usman to almost, I think it would have tied Anderson Silva's record if he had won that fight, Usman. So he was seen as that guy. He also got cast in the new Black Panther. So there was a stardom about Usman this time. He almost felt like people felt like he was getting a bit arrogant. I didn't think he was, but because I felt it's just who he always is. He's quite flamboyant at times, Usman. But it was one of those where everybody was, thinking that he was going a bit crazy. And with Leon Edwards, there was a real feel of, oh, he's not a Colby, he's not a Masvidal. He didn't get the respect that people got. Now, if you want to go for Leon Edwards, let's go for him. Leon Edwards, first of all, put together an incredible win streak in the UFC. I think it was 9 fights in a row. I think obviously now it's 10. Before he took the belt. And Leon Edwards, I think his last loss was to Usman as well, which made it a bit more interesting. Edwards had looked pretty comfortable. The only fight he had a bit of trouble in was the Nate Diaz one, which he schooled Nate Diaz for the whole of that fight up until the last moment. And if you go through it, so he beat Dominic Waters, had beaten Albert Tumenov, beat Vicente Luque, beat Brian Barberina, beat Peter Sobotta, beat Donald Cerrone, beat Gunnar Nelson, beat RDA. Obviously had that weird one with Bilal Muhammad, but he was going to win, let's be honest. Beat Nate Diaz, and it was like, wow, this guy had beaten, not everybody, but he had beaten enough guys and had done enough work to earn the shot. He was supposed to fight Tyron Woodley, who was just coming off the Usman fight, I'm pretty sure at that point. So it was his first fight back. He was fighting a former champion, and if he had won that fight, Edwards, he would have fought Usman. But COVID happened, he couldn't get it done. So Gilbert Burns gets the fight against Woodley, and Gilbert Burns then takes the shot. And you're thinking, okay, so then what happens after that? Edwards is still there, 9 fights in a row. He's waiting for his opportunity. Or 8 fights in a row. It was 9 fights after Nate Diaz. He's waiting for the chance. Then what happens? Masvidal steps in because Burns obviously has, I think, COVID. He then fights Masvidal Usman. Then he fights Burns again. No, not Burns again. He fights Burns, obviously, because he was supposed to in the first time round. Beats Burns. He then calls out Masvidal again because he wants to KO him cold. He wants to show that wasn't him. He's not a boring fighter when he wants to show that he's that guy. That happens. Colby Covington talks a lot. He's a big name. He gets people talking, so they give him the shot. Whilst Edwards had done more work, really. You look at it. Colby had 1 fight against Woodley, beat him, and they gave him the shot. Edwards, 9 fights in a row. It took him how long to get the shot? So then, obviously, Usman beats Covington. Then there's only one place. It was almost that the UFC had to give Edwards the shot. It was too far down the line at a certain point. So it took a long time, but finally our boy Leon had the shot from the UK. Good chance to get another champion. And going into the fight, a lot of people thought Usman would win. I thought he would win. I felt like Edwards, as good as he was, Usman would just use that championship experience. A long reigning champion as well, Usman. Let's not get twisted. And then first round comes, And there's a lot of pressure coming into the fight. A lot of people, they think Usman's going to win, but Edwards still has the improvements. The improvements that both these guys made since their first fight is huge. Usman's a better striker, Edwards is a better grappler. And it showed, because in the first round, Edwards takes Usman down, and you're thinking, okay, could something happen here? He had Usman's back, and Usman, as we know, his one other loss in MMA was, I think it was to Jose Caceres, I think it was, via rear naked choke. I was almost had him in that exact same spot, was able to survive. Then Usman does what he does. That's why he was the champion. Recovered, was able to mix in the striking and grappling, and essentially, people might thought it was boring. Alright, I'll say this as well. A lot of dirty tactics in there by Usman. Grabbing the cage, doing these sort of things, which I hated to see that. I don't like it. But, it's just the way some fighters are. They have those little dirty tricks up their sleeve. And Usman used it. Second round, dominated, won that fight and won the round. Third round, doing the same. Usman, he was just tiring Edwards. I was in Utah as well. So obviously the altitude isn't exactly the best, and that's why a lot of fights were gassing out. Third round, like I said, came. Usman bullied Edwards, like how Edwards' coach told him, don't let him bully you, but that's exactly what he was doing. He was dominating Usman, as he does all the time, stares him down the end of the round. We get into round 4, and once again, Usman, he dominated. Since round 2, Usman won that round. He dominated in round 3, and then dominated in round 4, and it was looking like another routine win for Usman. Everybody's thinking Edwards just looks defeated. He looked broken in there, and Dean Thomas was talking about maybe he's almost resigned to the fact that he's just going to lose on points, and that's a victory for him. That's what DC and a lot of the other commentators are saying. It's looking like nothing's happening. Usman has him down, but he's not working. So what happens? The referee, Herb Dean, stands them up. They're there on their feet. Edwards has a somewhat decent right hand, and then we get to, I forget the time, I want to say it's about a minute or 2 minutes to go in the fight, and everybody's saying he needs to do something, but he's just not. Edwards, he's not responding. Nothing's happening, and out of nowhere, fakes the left, lands a left high kick. Edwards KOs Usman out cold. A man who, let's not get twisted, has never really been dropped in MMA, and he got put out cold. Same as what happened with GSP Matt Serra. Not exactly the same, obviously, but a similar sort of thing. And new welterweight champion Leon Edwards. It was the craziest moment I've witnessed for a long time in MMA. I genuinely was speechless. It was crazy. I was happy for him as a guy from the UK. You got to represent, and he did. It wasn't just an incredible finish, an incredible interview afterwards. The amount of quotes that have come out from that, the headshot bang, the pound for pound the look at me now, everything that he was doing. It was, for a guy who was so quiet, he exploded Edwards, and was the most incredible moment I think of this year. One of the most incredible moments I think in mixed martial arts history in general. And yeah, I'm so happy that Edwards got it done. I question whether he can beat Usman in the rematch again. I mean, there's talks about Usman maybe being injured, so maybe he may fight somebody else and get a title defense in first, but I'm not bothered. It's an incredible fight, and nothing will ever take that away from Edwards. He was the champ. He was the guy who knocked out the guy who nobody could beat. And yeah, I don't think it could have happened to a better guy, a better fighter, an incredible fighter. And man, it was an unbelievable moment, one of the craziest moments in, mixed martial arts history. Probably the best head kick KO in history. It was just crazy. I couldn't speak all day from that. It was incredible, that fight, that finish. I could watch it so many times, and it'll never amaze me. The way he landed, it was so perfect. And that was another example of Edwards using his full array of skills. Like I said, the rematch, I don't know, Usman, he could just grapple him again and this time not get caught by the kick. It's possible, but I think when you get knocked out, how is your chin? Usman gets hit a lot, so we'll have to see how his chin is now. And even if he's out for this fight, I feel like, regardless, Usman Edwards 3 has to be in the UK. I feel like it has that big fight feel, and that should be in the UK, in Edwards' home. We need more big fights like that in the UK period. Obviously, there, I think he's going to defend his belt in the next one. I think it's in the O2, the next one. But regardless, like I said, an incredible finish to an incredible year of MMA. And it's been a great year. And we got some good fights on the horizon. So hopefully we get even bigger fights on the, like I said, on the horizon, on the way. I'm going to do a video of my top 5 anticipated fights in 2023. So make sure to stay tuned for that. But yeah, just my top 5 moments of mixed martial arts. A boxing one is on the way, as we all know. I cover both sports, love both sports. And yeah, until next time.